Jikaze, Africa, jikaze, America.
You are listening to African Father in America podcast by Simon Javan Okelo, live from Seattle, Washington, USA.
Thank you so much for joining me for another amazing session here of the African Father in America podcast. We are live and direct on Clubhouse, and we are also live and direct on YouTube. I am so grateful that you took the time to join us this morning. It's 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Hey, Safi, thank you for making the time to join me for today's session. We are going to be learning a few things this morning. As usual, every day when we host this session here in the African Father in America Club, we learn a few things. So the proverb we are discussing today comes all the way from from Lesotho, and it says it is best to bind up the finger before it is cut. It is best to bind up the finger before it is cut. I am going to share some of the lessons that we can learn from this proverb in just a moment. But before I do that, if you're watching this on YouTube, I want to encourage you to subscribe to the channel. And also, if you're here with me on Clubhouse, like Safi, I want to encourage you to, ping in 5 people to join us on the stage. And I also just want to add the link to this live stream at the top of the room there on Clubhouse. So just give me 1 second while I get the link here, to share it with you all, so that if you have a moment, you can also join me on YouTube, where we are live streaming right now. So here are some of the things that I would love for us to take away from our conversation today. Number 1 is we need to understand the different types of self-sabotage. Number 2, we need to put ourselves down before our best friends. We need to put ourselves down before our best friends. Number 3, we need to not speak negatively about ourselves. Number 4, we need to be mindful about our words, and also because our words literally affects our actions. And then number 5, we need to celebrate our accomplishments, no matter how small they might be. So these are lessons that I'm grabbing from the proverb that we are discussing today, which is from Lesotho. Lesotho is a Southern African country that is very, very small, but it's very mighty, just going by some of the words of wisdom that we are getting from there. The proverb says, it is best to bind up the finger before it is cut. Self-talk is incredibly important, but it is also incredibly easy to let our inner critic take the best of us. Myself, I talk to myself a lot. I think, I process things, in my mind so many times before it comes out. I'm a father of 3 girls, and many times I have to think about the things I want to say to my daughters before I say it to them, because a lot of the things I say to them are also things that are for me. They're things that, they're my own issues. I probably don't need to bring my own issues to them. But how I process my own issues impacts how I deal with them, So a lot of the time lately, at least over the last 5 months, I have been, intentionally paying attention to what I tell myself, And according to today's proverb, we are learning some of the things that you should not do, and some of the things that you should do in order for you to not be your worst enemy. Because similar to food that you eat, the things that you tell yourself are also what makes who you become. The more you tell yourself that you're amazing, you become amazing. The more you tell yourself that you're terrible, even sometime when you're creating something and you make a small mistake and you tear the whole piece of paper and throw it away, and start saying how terrible you are, you're not giving yourself a chance. You find that you will limit how many opportunities of growth you have, because you're literally stopping yourself from trying. You're stopping yourself from making mistakes and taking it in a positive way. So in this episode of the Daily African Proverbs here in the African Father in America podcast, we are going to discuss how to guard your utterances, and become your best friend. And I'm hoping that as you join me on the stage here on Clubhouse particularly, we can talk about some of the tips. That thank you, Steve, for joining us on stage, by the way. I appreciate it. I'll mute you just for a moment. And then we can talk about some of the tips that we all have in regards to guarding our utterances, because a lot of the time, once you utter certain words, you can't take them back, and so the goal is that by the time we end our conversation today, as we all walk away and go to our work, go to bed, go and do the regular things that we all do, we at least leave knowing that, these are some of the tips I learned from the African Father in America podcast today. And so I really, really appreciate you all for joining us. If you are just joining, here are a couple of ways you can help. Number one, share the link to this conversation. If you're on Clubhouse, share it within Clubhouse, and also share it outside of Clubhouse on YouTube. I apologize, on Instagram, on Twitter. Share it so that others can also join us and be a part of this amazing conversation. Number two, you can also clip the nuggets that you're getting from our conversation right now and share it on Twitter. And also number three, click the link at the top of the room and join me on YouTube, so that you can see my face. Number one. Number two, you can also just engage more directly with this work that we're doing. My goal is to continue growing my presence on YouTube as well. So if you just take a minute, subscribe to my YouTube channel and help me build this little village that we have been building over the last year and 3 months. So again, today we are discussing a proverb from Lesotho. It's written Lesotho, but it's said Lesotho. And Lesotho is a beautiful country in Southern Africa, and we are dissecting a proverb from there that says, "It is best to bind up the finger before it is cut." It is best to bind up the finger before it is cut. I do see Sarah in the audience, and yesterday, and I think maybe today, is still Namibian National Independence celebration. So, I hope you all celebrated well with your family and friends. Now, I want to bring it to you, Steve, if you have a moment to share your perspectives. Share with us just quickly where you're joining us from, and also when you think about this proverb from Lesotho, from Lesotho, what comes to your mind? The proverb says it is best to bind up the finger before it is cut. And I have five nuggets that I shared earlier. I will share them again in a moment. But today we are talking about how to guard your utterances as well. This proverb is, helping us understand how best we can guard what we say, because what you say is impactful. So Steve, I give it to you.
Thank you, Simon. Hello, everyone. This is Steven joining from Kisumu, Kenya. When I heard of this proverb, what came in my mind first was a verse, a Bible verse. I'm trying to look for this verse, but it's sounding to me more sweet when I say it in Luo than I was trying to look for it in English Bible. But if Simon, you can help me translate. Lep chalo liganga man gi dhoge ariyo. So what from my translation is that the tongue, from this Bible verse, if any of you can help me find the verse, the tongue is like a sword, a two-headed sword that can pierce from any direction. So this proverb, to me, it teaches me a lot, and it just reminds me that you need to reflect over everything that comes up out of your mouth, every word that you utter before you speak out. You really need to think over it, because your utterances can come back and pierce you yourself, you that uttered them, than the subject that you thought whatever you're going to say to him or her will harm him. So before we say or speak out anything, we need to think over them and weigh the impact of the recipients. If it was subjected to us, how would we react? That's all I can say for now, Simon. Thank you once again, and back to you.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate that. I appreciate Lepchaloli Ganga Mangi. Mangiango, can you say that again?
Lepchaloli Ganga Mangi Wiye Ari.
Lepchaloli Ganga Mangi Wiye. I like that. It's amazing when you read the Bible in our mother tongue and also in our other native tongues. I appreciate that. And I want to, thank you again for your consistency in showing up and supporting this movement. And I want to welcome Marcy and Kelsey and Fred and Tula and Sarah one more time to the Clubhouse space. And also on YouTube, we have Kay Benjamin, who has joined us there, as well as M. Jewel. Thank you very much, M. Jewel and Kay. I'm just grateful that you're both here. And, I see that Roger has also joined us. Feel free to come up on stage. For those who are on Clubhouse, I would really love to get more perspectives on today's conversation. We are discussing a proverb from Lesotho. This proverb says, "It is best to bind up the finger before it is cut." It is best to bind up the finger before it is cut. And the main theme of our conversation today is how to guard your utterances. The thing is, all of us have mouths, all of us have mouths, and we use our mouths effectively. We talk, we eat, but primarily this proverb focuses on how we use our mouth to talk. And one of the people that talk the most are politicians and also artists, people that lead public opinions currently globally are politicians, and what they say can mean life or death. For example, Putin, the Russian president, if he says that they have to invade Ukraine. That's what the soldiers do, If we look at the Kenyan situation, I come from Kenya originally, so I'll focus on Kenya for a moment. If we look at the Kenyan politicians, if we go back in history to 2007 elections, the utterances of politicians in Kenya caused over 1,000 deaths as a result of the elections that were disputed after the 2007 elections were held. And until now, people have not recovered from that. Literally, there were people who went to hide in church in a town like Eldoret. Many of you know Eliud Kipchoge, who just won the Tokyo Olympics. The city that he comes from, during this post-election violence, there were people who they were not safe in their houses. So they decided that, okay, let's run and hide in the church. So they were there in tents, almost 100 people hiding in a church called, I think it was called Kikambala. And, the people that were pursuing them, who are from a different ethnic group, torched the church, locked these people in. As they were trying to run out, they were locked in again until they were all burned to death, just because of utterances. They were, even as we speak, these cases are still at the International Criminal Court, where you find that, there were radio presenters. Radio presenters are also people who utter so many words all the time. And they were some of the people that caused this violence just by what they were saying. If you even go further from Kenya to Rwanda, the genocide in Rwanda was caused by things that people were saying, and a lot of it came from radio presenters, media personalities, politicians. So today's proverb and today's conversation here in the African Father in America Club, on Clubhouse, and also on my YouTube channel, which is AFIA podcast by Simon Javan Okelo, we are learning how we can better guard our utterances. And earlier on, I was saying that all of us, we practice self-talk. We talk to ourselves, before we leave for work. We talk to ourselves about where is the key, how fast am I driving, what are some of the things I'll do when I get to work. At the same time, we have people that we engage with in our own households, how we handle them, how we speak to them. We can never take that back, So what we are learning primarily today are 5 key things. I want to share them. One is understand the different types of self-sabotage. What are some ways? Each person has their own way of sabotaging themselves. I have 3 daughters, but one of my daughters sometime, when she's working on a piece of art, and she does not like how it looks, she can tear the piece of paper and throw it away and say, I'm a terrible artist. But if you look at the art that she's working on, it's really beautiful, it's really nice, and you don't expect a little girl like her to be so advanced. So my work is to remind her that you don't need to say that you're terrible. You just need to try again. You have to keep this piece of art and grab another one and try again. Then the other thing here is, don't put yourself down. Be your own best friend. For example, myself, over the last year, I've always been trying to, as we speak, I am 38 years old, but I've always, been trying to run for 10 miles every week. So at the beginning, I was only running, 3 miles, 4 miles. I'm someone who loves staying fit, and then recently I went for 7 miles and I really, really liked it. And then I just dropped down to not going for runs at all because I got too busy. And so I've not been advocating for myself. I've not been talking myself out of just being being inconsistent. Let me use that word. I wanted to say being lazy, but I've been inconsistent with running particularly. But I'm still doing other things. Like yesterday, for about 3 hours, I was in my garden moving soil and preparing, putting seeds in the garden. So I found something else to make myself feel better, but also to allow myself to have something positive to tell myself that, wow, even though I didn't run for the 10 miles I wanted to, I was still able to work for this long in my garden, and I was still able to do something, something physical and also something still mental that, enriched me as a person. Number 3, don't speak negatively about yourself. I think we just talked about this a bit, so I'll pass that one. Don't speak negatively about yourself. When I was also giving the example of my daughter and the artwork, I think that covered this one well. And then number 4 here, be mindful of your words and how they might affect your actions. This one is also really, really important, because what you tell yourself ends up influencing what you do. What you tell yourself before you take any action influences what you do, whether it's in running, in my case, whether it's accomplishing a work project. A lot of the time, even before we start the project, we are like, I don't feel like doing this project, and then you end up not finishing it. But sometimes, if you approach it as if, this project, I want to finish this and then do half of the next project that I need to be working on. So you are setting yourself up for accomplishing things in a way that is beyond discouraging yourself. A lot of the time, before we get into things, we discourage ourselves even before we start. And then finally, celebrate your accomplishments. For example, myself, every day when I host this daily African Proverbs, the moment I press the end button, I still have a few things to do. For example, I have to upload the audio version of our conversation to the podcast distribution platforms, so that other people who could not make it here can listen to it. And so the moment I've been able to do that, I refill my coffee cup and I just smile and I enjoy. I know that I did something. I finished this thing that I was committed to host this conversation and to distribute it across all podcasting platforms. Makes me feel that I did what I needed to do. And then if I can do this the first thing in the morning, everything else becomes easier. The clients that I'm serving, I'm able to see the impact of my work elsewhere, because I know that I started my day on a positive note. Everything gets easier if you can start your day by talking to yourself and telling yourself how great you are. There's one thing every day, I spend a lot of time with my daughters. I'm a full-time father. Despite all these other things that I do, I spend a lot of time with my daughters. And one of the toughest things to do is preparing them for school, all 3 of them, and then getting them into the car and driving them to school. It might seem very simple, but it's not easy to convince kids who are less than 10 years old to be ready on time to eat their breakfast. It's a lot of work. So by the time we're in the car, we are all exhausted, and we have some chants that we always say, and as we chant in the car on our way to school, the energy comes back. And all these chants are always affirmations that I am teaching them how to remember who they are, how to remember how amazing they are, and how to forget the challenges we just faced in getting ready, because I have to be hard on them a little bit to get them out on time. But the moment we are in the car, we are heading to school, I want them to arrive in class with a clear mind, with an open heart, with a smile in their face. And so just chanting and having our own daily routine, something they can look forward to on our way to school, makes all of us feel great. So I want to, just welcome all of you who are here with us, Teopolina and Marcy and Johnny and Don and Roger, Fred, Tula and Sarah. This has been a very nice conversation so far, and I see that Stella and Talani and Steve are with us on the stage. We've heard from Steve briefly, so I want to come to you, my brother Talani, and happy Independence Day to you and your Namibian brothers and sisters. Today we are discussing a proverb not too far from Namibia, but from Lesotho. And the proverb says that it is best to bind up the finger before it is cut. I want you to share with us your perspectives on this, and also any comments in regards to our theme that I was exploring today on how to guard your utterances. I hope you had a nice weekend. Share with us where you're joining us from as well. Thank you so much.
Brother Simon, it's always a pleasure to be with you on stage. And today I'm going to go against protocol and take over your room and just declare it Namibian room today, because it's our independence and everybody is Namibian. So I hope you'll join me in
I love that.
celebrating. So, but I was listening to what you're saying about guarding against your utterances. There's an old saying that there are many sayings that talk about the power of the tongue, right? That it's one of the softest organ in the body, and yet it can sort of inflict so many cuts. So we have to be mindful and careful of how we use it. And there were two things that came in my mind when I saw this this proverb today. One was a painful one, because to pay for a university, I used to work in food service, in catering, and I would work with chefs who can make some amazing food and carve things out of ice that I never thought were possible. But I was so disrespectful to their crafts that I did not realize everything that I needed to do. Simple things such as just what kind of shoes you need to wear when you're working in a kitchen and you're on your feet all the way around. How to hold a knife so that you don't cut yourself. How to position a tomato or an onion so that the knife doesn't slid and cut you. So as you can imagine, I cut myself many of times when I was working, at least when I first began working, because I just did not understand the craft. I did not understand, nor did I value the importance of binding my fingers. And what I took away from that is that if you do not take care in advance, you are going to suffer because of so many different oversights. So for me, when I saw that proverb, I just went back, transported myself back to working in that kitchen where I cut my fingers so many different times. But I think for me, the bigger takeaway from this proverb is just really about preparation, being aware of things before they happen, to be able to prepare yourself so that you're not, you're not spending your time cleaning up the mess, because it's not really easy or possible to put the milk back in the bottle once the bottle has been broken and spilled. So if you can do what you can beforehand, it'll really be helpful and useful to you in the long run. Totally, I'm done speaking.
Wonderful to Talani. I love that. I love. This is a part of your journey that I've not learned about. So thank you for sharing. You know, your time in the kitchen with us. I hope you learned a lot from that kitchen. That in your own kitchen now, things are very tasty and spicy. So when I visit with you, I want to try some of your best Namibian cuisines.
Oh, you're welcome, my brother. You have to come.
Well, I want you to also just share with us, what Namibia's Independence Day today means to you, and also how is it celebrated today, and also, you know, when Namibia got its independence. I know that Kenya has contributed a lot to Namibia's, journey, and even now there are still very many Kenyan professionals in Namibia, and I think Namibians also have a very special place in their heart for Kenya because of how much we learn from each other. So I just wanted you to take a moment and share with us just a little more about what today means to you and all Namibians.
Namibia became independent in 1990, March 1990. In Today, the 21st of March. Um, I am one of the very few people in the world, as many Namibians are, who can say that they were there when their nation came into existence. So Namibia was colonized by Germany, and then inflicted immense pain under the apartheid government of South Africa. So we have gone through a lot of suffering, and for many of us who remember the time at war and the time at independence, this is a day of reflection, and in terms of the many people that we know that are no longer here, many people who we know that pay the ultimate price for our freedom. There's a line in Namibia's national anthem that says, glory to their braveries, whose blood waters our freedom. And we take that very seriously because some of us remember those people, not just from the stories, but because they once sat next to us and they're no longer there. But then it's also a very exciting day also for those who in Southern Africa are known as the born-free generations, those who do not know the tortures of war, and those who know nothing but a free Namibia. And there's a lot of celebration there. So the current president of Namibia is fond of saying that Namibia is a country that has been midwifed by the international community, which sort of reflect the idea and the belief that without the support of the international community, Namibia would not have become independent. And Simon, as you rightfully said, there's a lot of Kenyans in the country, a lot of Kenyans who gave support throughout the war for independence, as so many different Africans. And I think, as we're seeing right now, what's happening around the world, when there's a war in your country, people go into exile. And from exile, they're able to do what they can to support independence movement. So many Namibians were living outside the country, being supported in countries like Kenya, in our neighboring countries like even Lesotho, Botswana, and Zambia, Zimbabwe, and so forth. And as far away as countries like Cuba, Russia, US, and so on. So Namibia is very much an international country because of those supports that we receive from there. But I'm also saddened because I'm missing the celebration. I'm right now in Oklahoma, and I'm going to the office, to the university to teach. And while everybody at home is having a day off, where they are having all kind of celebration, music, plenty of drinking happening, a lot of braai, or what some in this part of the world called barbecue. Just a lot of great food, a lot of really happy, joyful memories. So, so wherever you are, no matter what country you're from, today, like I said, I'm declaring you Namibian, and please help us all celebrate, because Namibia would not have been what it is today without the international community.
Wow. Thank you so much. That's a beautiful tribute to today's celebration of Namibia's independence. And I learned so much from what you shared with us. And I just want to welcome Stephen Howard, who I think is joining us for the first time, and Rachel and Bobby. My brother Johnny, thank you for being here. And Mamayama, thank you for joining us on the stage. And now I want to come to you, Stella. How are you? Where are you joining us from? And what are your thoughts about this proverb from Lesotho that says, it is best to bind up the finger before it is cut? Feel free to share comments on Namibia's independence as well. Thank you so much. I suspect that Stella might be away from her phone at the moment, so we'll come back to you in a moment, Stella. I will go straight away to Mamayama. How are you doing, Mamayama? Where are you joining us from today? And what are your thoughts about this proverb from Lesotho? It says, it is best to bind up the finger before it is cut. Thank you.
Ok, buenos días en español. Good morning, Brother Simon, all the people that are in the room also, Steven, Tuta, Stella. Interesting because these come something that the people speak here also in Latin America. So I am Mamayama. I was born in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, but I live in Ecuador. Ecuador is a small and large country in the middle of the American continent. And yeah, it's best to sometimes is a little difficult to think about this proverb. But that proverb today calls me to self-care. Yeah, self-care. A very important act that we human beings forget. Taking care of ourselves, self-preserving ourselves, and everything that is associated with this. In truth, an act of love for ourselves and also for the home planet on which we live. We start a new season this moment. Here in Ecuador is very important moment, the equinox. And it's time also to work in internal change for all the person, for everybody. We must take care of ourselves in an integral way. So it's not to have to discharge parts and aspects that are important in our lives and regret later. So good start to a new week, and maybe God bless you all. Ashe, I am Mamayama, and I'm finished my speech. Thank you.
Thank you, Mamayama. I appreciate you. I always love hearing your voice, and I just love hearing from, you're part of the world, and just knowing that, many of our ancestors actually traveled that way, and you are a representative of some of us in different ways. So just hearing your voice, is always just such a wonderful, privilege. Now, Mimi.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Of course, of course. Mimi, how are you doing today? And we are discussing a proverb from Lesotho. It says, "It is best to bind up the finger before it is cut." Share with us your perspectives on it. The main theme around this proverb today is how to guard your utterances. The floor is yours.
Hi, Simon. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. As always, I'm Mimi reporting in from Florida, USA. And I just hopped in the room and just saw today's proverb. And I've been on this journey myself lately because I've just tapped into a wellspring of creative energy within myself, and I feel like my cup overfloweth with creative energy. And for the past couple of weeks, I was just pouring that energy into everything and everyone, and I was getting positive responses back, and people were vibing with me, and I was so energized, and I hit the wall. I went too far. And so when I think about this proverb, I think about the lesson I'm trying to learn myself right now, which is how to protect my energy, to protect myself, to know when to pour into someone and who to pour into and what to pour into and when to stop and etc. And it's funny because I was just writing my weekly affirmations. So I'll share those with you all and leave my thoughts there. So here we go. I am content. I am composed. I am constant. I will preserve and protect my energy. I will reserve my spirit for those things that serve my most genuine self. I am secure. Thank you, Simon.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. I loved your affirmations that you shared with us. And I just loved all the contributions from our amazing speakers. I see that Jay Ware has joined us on the stage. Jay, thank you for making the time so early here in the Pacific Northwest. I want to, invite you in a moment, but I want to check in with Stella first. Stella, are you there? And are you available to share your perspectives now? If you're not, that's okay. There you are.
Yes, I'm here.
Perfect. Okay, I'll pass it to
Hi,
you.
everyone. Yes, this is Stella from Kenya, and I'm happy to be here as always. Today's proverb is a beautiful one because to me, when I saw it, I was like, this is something that happens every day. You find that sometimes you say something and you regret almost immediately. So it is just like warning you to always be thoughtful and think of what you want to say before you actually say it. And it also reminds me of one of my lecturers long time ago who was saying that truth told without love is too brutal. So you find that sometimes you could be having some good thoughts to share with someone, but they're too honest that the other person you're telling is perceiving them as something that is hurtful to them. So sometimes when you want to tell someone something, you really have to think of how you want to package it in a way that is going to be helpful to them and not harm them. And even when you're talking to yourself. Yes, so those are my perspectives on today's proverb. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Stella. I appreciate you a lot. For those who are meeting Stella for the first time, she's a huge part of the success of the Daily African Proverbs and these sessions that we host here every Monday to Friday. So make sure you follow her. She's helping me produce these sessions. She's helping me promote these sessions across social media platforms. So she's a huge support system for me. And also follow Steven, who is at the top of, right next to me. He's leading the One Vibe Africa team in Kisumu, Kenya. And One Vibe Africa is my non-profit organization that I founded long before I came to the US. And so currently we are present both in Kenya and Seattle, Washington, where I am based. So those are good people to connect with. And now we are going to go to you, Jay. How are you doing? What are your thoughts on this Lesotho proverb? It says it is best to bind up the finger before it is cut. Thank you so much for being here.
Good morning. Yes, it is so good to be here as well. I was out of the state last week, and as a result, it was a 3-hour time difference, and it was impossible for me to join last week. So I really missed this room. I missed the Proverbs. I missed being fed the wisdom. So in terms of guarding your utterance, the first thing that came to mind was scripture, and that was James 1:19, to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to anger. And that is something that I have struggled with in terms of being slow to speak. And it really does profit and benefit when you take your time to observe, to be more observant, and to listen to what's being said, and to make a wise choice, a wise determination, if it really is beneficial and worthwhile, needed and necessary for you to say anything. So that is really how I look at this particular situation and circumstances regarding the proverb. It's just to slow down. It's easy to be quickly offended by someone, but it may not be necessary for you to respond, and just to determine whether the environment, the person, and the situation requires your voice, your intervention, your contribution. This is Jay, and I'm finished speaking. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jay. I am grateful. I'm grateful that you're here. And I'm glad that your travel went well and that you're back in the Seattle area. And now I want to come back to all our contributors for today. Thank you, Steve and Talani and Stella, Mamayama and Mimi, and of course Jay, for your wonderful, wonderful contributions. If you're just joining us, we are actually at the tail end of our time together today. You've been listening to the African Father in America podcast, but this is the regular show. This is the most regular show that we do. It's the Daily African Proverbs, where we bring in proverbs from different parts of Africa every day, Monday to Friday, and we dissect them in order to gain wisdom from these proverbs, words of wisdom, so that we can just get a little wiser, we can just get a little strength and power, so that as we go through our day, we learn something new. So these are some of the things that I am hoping you can take away from our conversation today. And our conversation's primary theme is how to guard your utterances. So, number one, understand the different types of self-sabotage. Number two, don't put yourself down. Be your own best friend. Number 3, don't speak negatively about yourself. Number 4, be mindful of your words and how they might affect your actions. And number 5, celebrate your accomplishments, no matter how small they might be. So thank you again for spending your time with us. There are a couple of things I just want to share before we wrap up. The first thing is that yesterday we held the Ethiopian dinner, which is part of One Vibe Africa's dinner experiences. Since 2016 here in Seattle, we have been hosting African dinners featuring chefs from many different countries from around the continent. And last night was just so wonderful. And if you go to my Instagram right now, my Instagram is at Okelo Javan. You'll be able to see some of the videos, but we are going to share more videos and more photos from last night with you. These are free dinners, so if you're in Seattle, make sure you RSVP for this Sunday's Senegalese dinner. We have 2 more dinners that are coming up. This Sunday, we have a Senegalese dinner that is going to be, the chef is going to be Mamadou Diakate, who is the owner of La Teranga, the oldest Senegalese restaurant in Seattle, and also the owner of Baol African, store here in Seattle on Rainier Avenue. Him and his wife are going to be making the dinner, and our goal is with these dinners is to popularize African food and African restaurants so that we can have more eyes and more foot traffic visiting African restaurants. And also African diet is very, very nutritious. And a lot of the time, even me myself, when I don't eat enough African food, I just feel sad, But when I'm already salivating because of how good some of these African foods that we've been enjoying are. When you only grow up eating Kenyan food and then you get introduced to Senegalese food, you get introduced to South African food, you get introduced to Ethiopian food, then you know that Africa is really, really rich, when it comes to our gastronomy. Now, the Kenyan dinner is coming up on April 3rd. You can already RSVP for that as well. It's also free. All of these 3 dinners are sponsored by Seattle Foundation through the Neighbor to Neighbor grant. So, I'm really, really grateful for the Seattle Foundation and all the work that they do here in the Seattle area. Now, finally, I have been pushing my first book. To Talani, I haven't shared this with you. Maybe you should host me in the Namibia Club soon to talk about Rooted in Love. This is, the first book that I've ever written, and it's a beautiful coffee table book with a number of pictures from Seattle and pictures from Kenya, and there's an essay in it. There are also a lot of stories from very many artists and leaders that I have worked with over the years. So check it out. It's on my Linktree, which is connected to my Instagram and Twitter. With that, I am just grateful for your support, and I can't wait to see you all again tomorrow. Same time, 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, which is right now it's 4 p.m. East African Time, and I think it's 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here in the US. So thank you again for making the time. Here on YouTube, I do see that we are joined by a wonderful community. K. Benjamin, thank you. M. Jewel, thank you. And with that, we are going to wrap up our session today. And I hope you have a beautiful day. And I also hope you have a beautiful night if it's night time for you. Take good care of yourselves.
African father in America. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. African father in America. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze.
You are listening listening to African Father in America podcast by Simon Javan Okelo, live from Seattle, Washington, USA.